Everything that I am about to tell you this afternoon is true, and fair warning, some of it is kind of upsetting. So I thought I'd apologize in advance. There are 11 corpses in this show. 8 suicides, 1 tragic accident, 1 fake dead body, and 1 cat. I apologize. There are references to sex in this show. Awkward, humiliating sex, or in my case, the awkward and humiliating lack of sex. I'm sorry. There are also 2 skinheads, 1 act of public fornication, a few ghosts, Satan, and Shakespeare. I take a few pot shots at religion, but I feel that it's warranted. Also, because of lifelong feelings of self-loathing, I feel the need to say I'm sorry after anything that you might find potentially offensive, and for that, I apologize. Well, I started working at Passage Theater in 2002, I believe. My relationship with Passage Theater started when I volunteered for the playmaking program, which was part of the State Street Project, which was Passage Theater's education program at that time. And actually, June Ballinger, who was the artistic director back then, had kind of revived Passage Theater, brought it back from the dust by instituting this playmaking program. And it was one of the best youth programs that I had ever seen. It came from the 52nd Street Project, and it was just a really great way to engage young people in theater, not through acting, which a lot of programs do, but through the act of writing. And I think that that was one of the things that made me start writing. I was an actor initially, but it's kind of impossible to be an actor when you're the associate artistic director of a theater. But I did become fascinated with playwriting and playwriting structures and playwriting methodology. And so over the years that I was there for 14 seasons, I started doing a lot of writing. And I initially wrote for young people and wrote a lot of plays for students in Trenton high schools, Trenton middle schools, things like that. And then eventually June Ballinger kind of dared me to write a play, which became Blood, a Comedy. And we produced that on the main stage. My God, I don't even know. I mean, Blood, a Comedy was a big deal for me because it was the first major production of anything that I had written. June Ballinger was in it, and she was brilliant. Adam Immerwahr directed it, and he was brilliant. The entire cast was brilliant. I just look back on that production, and while I'm sure a more mature me looking back on it would say, that could have been better, I certainly didn't feel that at the time. It was one of the best experiences I've had in the theater. Another thing that I think about a lot is if I could in my hood, I would, which was it was the very first thing I wrote for Passage Theater. It had to do with gang violence in Trenton. And it was the first time that I kind of went out and interviewed people in order to create a show. And I wound up not only doing it in Trenton several times, but working with Ronnie Gilbert in Newark, and he did it many times. I just recently worked with Andrew Binger in Newark and Nicolette Lynch, who produced it again. And I think that show kind of represents a lot of the kind of oral history-based work that I did. It was something that I did not know would continue, but I'm doing an awful lot of work like that now. We did Trenton Lights, Passage Theater. I'm now doing the OK Trenton project with Ryan Dominguez. I'm doing another piece, Drexel. So that is something that really kind of had legs, and it seems to be something that people are really interested in, and I have found the work very interesting. Once I kind of got into this period of playwriting, I was really writing a lot more often. And at some point after writing 2 or 3 comedies, kind of dark comedies, I decided I wanted to do something a little bit different. Now, Passage Theater had something at the time called the Solo Flights Festival, and I think that is still continues. And that is a series of solo performers that come on stage and they tell stories. It's not always autobiographical, but a lot of times that it is. The best ones, or at least the ones that were my favorites, were the ones that were funny. I remember Nancy Giles coming on stage and doing a show. Lauren Weedman was a big favorite of mine. Her show Bust. And so a lot of people would come on and do these shows, and over the years I got really fascinated with them, and I thought, well, I wonder if this is something that I can do. And it's kind of a terrifying experience. Well, I had always wanted to tell the story of my battle with clinical depression when I was 25 years old, because first of all, I thought that's going to be a laugh riot. But also because it was something that felt like a story I had to offer that maybe was important, that maybe I had some, I think I have very few life events that allow me to impart wisdom, and I think maybe that might be one of them. And the good news was that when I was 25 and going through this experience, I kept a notebook. So I kept a journal of all of these things that had happened to me, and they included finding a therapist, finding a psychiatrist, getting on medication, dealing with the financials, but also the kind of internal struggle, dealing with suicidal thoughts, dealing with the stigma of mental illness, dealing with the paranoia and all of those things, and kind of going through that darkness and coming out and being okay at the end of it. And that was a pretty significant thing in my life. And I think even at the time, I was 26 when it all kind of ended, even at the time, I realized that it was significant. So as I have moved across the country a number of times, I've kept this box filled with these journal pages, and I thought, well, maybe it's time to do something with them. So I started writing. It probably took me about 8 months to a year to really put the whole thing together. I read it out loud for playwright friends, first in segments, and then with a lot of people. I read it at Dreamcatcher Rep, and we workshopped it at Passage, and I read it at Drexel University, and any place really that I could find. And then we hired John Augustine, the director, to come in and direct what you're about to see, the actual production of Panther Hollow. John Augustine directed it. I went up and I did it at the United Solo Festival, and I have since done it at a lot of other places, not around the country, but in different places. I've done it in Pittsburgh numerous times because that's where the show takes place. That's where the actual physical location of Panther Hollow is. It's the neighborhood that I lived in. I don't know, that's a tough one. I think Panther Hollow really, in addition to being kind of a self-examination of what leads one into depression, there's also this kind of existential nature of it where you kind of go, wow, I don't just feel bad, I feel cosmically bad. Like, it's not just that I feel sad about something, I feel like the universe is ready to crack apart. And when this whole pandemic started, or rather when the whole current political situation started, I remember that feeling, but then thinking, oh my God, I can't take drugs for this. I can't actually take a Xanax or a Cymbalta or an anti-anxiety and make this go away. Like, it's no longer me. It actually is the world this time. And I think that is a really difficult thing for people right now to kind of accept. And it certainly was for me. And so we're kind of in new territory now where somehow you have to accept that everything in the world that's going on is really going on, and it's really quite bad. But also you have to engage in some form of self-care. Even if you're an advocate, even if you're out there marching in the streets, somehow you have to kind of take care of yourself so that you have the stamina to keep going. And I think I think that's a new thing for me. I remember thinking after I came out of the depression the first time that nothing in my life would be as bad as this, that I survived this, and so I could survive anything. And while that may still be true, this current moment in time is the only thing that has made me think, wow, can I really? I mean, things are really bad right now. One thing that the experience taught me was to have hope that there was nothing so bad that it couldn't somehow be fixed or adjusted or overcome. So I hope that that's true. It's difficult, I think, right now to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, when you take medication or you're in cognitive therapy, you kind of see the progress as the weeks continue, and it's really difficult to see right now. But I think that we have to figure out how we can see the little steps, right? Because much like you know, my own depression, and I think depression for a lot of people out there, there's not one day where you wake up and everything's fine. I've always kind of intended this piece to go out into the world and hopefully make people feel better. And certainly I've gotten a lot of positive responses from it, or I wouldn't still be putting it out there. And I hope that if you are watching it and you are having a struggle with mental illness or depression or anything like that, or you know someone that is, that this rings true for you and maybe gives you a little bit of hope. Thank you for showing Panther Hollow. Watch it, enjoy it, and hopefully you'll get a giggle out of it. It's not so bad. It's not. Here's the first thing that I need to say. I'm okay. Like when you watch it, there are going to be parts in the show where you're like, oh my God, is he going to be okay? Well, here I am. I'm sitting right here, right in front of you right now. I'm fine. So when you watch the show, just know you can kind of make that mental leap forward and know that this protagonist is going to come out of this just fine. And hopefully that will bring you a certain level of meaning to the experience. I don't know. What do you want from me?